Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Fortnite and more specifically everything that's wrong with Fortnite. If you didn't know, amongst the community right now, there's a lot of people that are stopping playing, not enjoying it. As a result, I thought it would be a good time to sit down and talk specifically in depth about everything that Fortnite offers, what it's doing wrong and what it has done well in the past, to return it to its former glory to make it the amazing, fun, awesome Fortnite that I'm sure a lot of you guys watching right now have experienced. There's honestly a high chance that somebody from Fortnite and Epic Games may be watching this video right now, and you watching are the most important person right now. I want you all to head down to the comment section and let me know: A, when did you start playing Fortnite? Which season was it? B, how much Fortnite do you play right now at this moment? And C, one thing that you think Fortnite could do to make the game better. Hit that like button to share this video around, to get it in front of somebody at Fortnite and Epic as we talk about, discuss, and go in depth about everything that the game offers and how we can make it even better. On screen now you can see all of the topics we're going to discuss, and if you want to jump ahead and listen to anything specifically, you can do, but I do encourage you guys to watch everything, sit back, relax, because there's so much to talk about. I want to give a big shout out to Cypher and also everybody else in the community that has brought this up and is discussing their own opinions at the moment. It has inspired this video. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it leaves a lot of food for thought, and if Epic or Fortnite are watching this, hopefully we can help you out. First topic we're going to be talking about is different players. It's really important going into everything that we're about to talk about, and whenever you think about anything when it comes to Fortnite, is understanding that Fortnite is built up of many different players. You can categorize it into main groups. I like to think you've got content creators, which is myself, people that you watch online, generally streamers or YouTubers. You've got competitive players whose main goal is to be the best they possibly can at Fortnite and ultimately make money from it. And then casual players, somebody that just plays on the weekend or plays with their friends and maybe doesn't even know that the competitive and content creation side of Fortnite exists. They're literally just playing the game to have fun. Whenever Fortnite do anything in game, they have to consider everyone that's playing, and they have their own objectives with what they want to achieve from Fortnite. Now, the reason I want to open up with this is because actually the casual players make up the vast majority of Fortnite players in the world, and although you hear the opinions of somebody like me or a competitive player or somebody on Twitter, they probably aren't as much a casual player. They are probably somebody that spends a lot more time on the game, and Fortnite is balancing out those thoughts and opinions and also keeping all of the casual players interested. It is a constant battle between a casual player that doesn't play much and isn't that great normally, and probably us, the people that are watching that play a lot more, going head to head and making sure that everyone is happy. It's something that I'm going to be discussing and talking about a lot in this video, and it's just something that I want you to bear in mind. It doesn't mean that anyone's opinions is invalid or any less important, but it does make you realize that actually Fortnite are catering for people that aren't necessarily always heard or don't necessarily voice an opinion when it comes to what they think about Fortnite. So, getting into the juicy stuff, the fun factor. This doesn't matter what kind of player you are, everyone wants to have fun. Personally, I remember the launch of the Impulse Nades, launching your friends off of a mountain just to eliminate them for fun, or even launching an enemy if you were skilled enough. Items like that made the game so fun. Stupid things like Porta Fort. It wasn't necessarily a super good item, but it was fun, it was dumb almost, and it made Fortnite different, unique, and fun. You may remember me and Rich pushing each other from max height on a trolley down a ramp, and I just literally screamed. It was hilarious, but moments like these are typically the moments that you think of when you think of the good times when it comes to Fortnite, and it's the moments that people want to try and replicate and want to try and get back to the most when it comes to their gaming experience in the world of Fortnite. However, I think it's safe to say that most people don't think that that level of fun factor is there anymore, and Fortnite has kind of lost that edge on what made it so unique and what made it this crazy fun game to be a part of, where you could just mess around with your friends. I think it's fair enough to say that back in the day when a lot of those items were added and towards the beginning of Fortnite, the whole landscape of the game was very different. Fortnite was fresh. People generally weren't that great at the game, but it didn't really matter. These fun items were available to everyone. They were fun for everyone. And I feel like, and I think it's safe to say that as the time has gone by, the fun factor of the game has been forgotten, and Fortnite almost takes itself a little bit too seriously. These items were great for somebody like me to make awesome videos on, for you guys to watch, because it was just so fun, silly, and it was a great time that you could have by yourself with friends or just watch clips online. And I think Fortnite need to seriously think about fun things that they can re-add into the game. Hey, even bringing back some of the old stuff, or brand new things that haven't been done before. Stop necessarily thinking about really great weapons, something that's just a little bit fun to mess around with. And even if it is a little bit overpowered at first, it doesn't matter. It needs to be fun first, and then seriousness later. Personally, I think that would make casual players play more, it would make us play more, it would make people talk about Fortnite more, and I think it's something that should be thought about more by Epic as well. So moving on to updates and patch notes, Fortnite set a precedent that was just insane. I mean, coming from a Call of Duty background, where the game wasn't updated anywhere near as often, maybe every few months we get like a big update, Fortnite came onto the scene and were like, every week, you're going to be getting something new in the form of a weapon or an item. The map itself is going to have a big change, and we're going to fix a load of stuff so that the game isn't broken. We're going to be on it basically every single week. It was crazy at first. I just remember thinking like, I can't believe they're actually managing to do this. And as a result, they basically set themselves up for an impossible mission where sustaining that just wouldn't work. And we know that that's the case because since then we have moved to sort of bi-weekly updates, like every few weeks. And even then, some of the updates won't really do much or add very much in. Fortnite have almost burnt themselves out with how much they initially did to the game and how much we now expect as a community because we're so used to it with the game being updated. I think the biggest issue here is the fact that we've gone from so many changes and so much new stuff to complete opposite. Like throughout the beginning of the Chapter 2 map, with all of this hype leading into it, with the big end live event, we then started Chapter 2 and we just waited for something to change, for something to be added. And throughout pretty much the entirety of last season, there wasn't really much at all in the form of map changes, updates, and communication from Fortnite themselves. Ultimately, each of these weekly updates originally came with patch notes. We'd get to know what was in the game, how we'd find those weapons, if the weapons were good, what the items would do, and then it all just went quiet. Again, the beginning of Chapter 2, nothing. And we've had nothing since. I don't know about you guys, but I quite like to know what's been added and changed in Fortnite each week, especially when all of these things are often quite big things. Otherwise, they just get overlooked and you don't really know what's going on. One good perspective is that people come to my videos to then find out. I can't complain about that, but I think it'd be safe to say the community in general would prefer to know and get an official source of what's happening. And I still genuinely don't understand why patch notes have just gone. I find that a little bit weird, to be honest with you. I think this season's been better with more consistent updates and cool things being added, but I think Fortnite almost made the mistake of thinking Chapter 2 and the new map should completely replicate what happened at like the beginning, like Season 1, Season 2 of Fortnite, where not that much happened to the map and not really too much went on. And they tried to replicate that in a new chapter by just letting people play on this map for ages without doing anything, forgetting that we have been so used to and trained to lots of things happening that it was just too slow paced. It was too boring almost. And the pacing of everything needs to stay consistent when you've built up a community of people that are used to changes and used to lots of cool things happening all the time. The biggest takeaway from this, I think, is better communication, letting us know what's happening, what's going on, what we can expect, so that the community knows how to set their expectations, so that we aren't necessarily let down or feeling like nothing's going on because we just don't know what's going on. And I think Fortnite need to really address that and make sure that moving forwards, there's better communication. Let's talk about live events. Oh my gosh, Fortnite smashed this. Fortnite set a precedent for millions of players around the world experiencing and watching something together in a game, which is crazy. Now, when it first started off, the Rocket event, first, it was just amazing. You could eliminate each other whilst that happened, by the way, but people generally were very good. They just came together as a community and we watched it, which was crazy. And from that point onwards, things just got bigger, crazier, and improved, which is amazing. The biggest live event was obviously the Black Hole event. I think the best event, in my opinion, was probably the Robot versus Monster event for a few reasons, though. Fortnite ultimately has had a story that has carried throughout the game, which has almost been hidden in the background. It's something I love to talk about, and I think us hardcore players love to follow. And I think it's been a really important part of the reason that we want to stick around. We want to know what's happening next. We want to know what's really going on in the world of Fortnite. But all of that seems to have just slowed down. As I said, that Monster versus Robot event, the story build-up was so easy to follow. The ice melted at Polar Peaks, a massive eye appeared, there were monster footsteps, and then a robot was built, and then they fought. It was so simple. It was so easy to follow, and it was just so successful. I loved it. However, if we go and look at the beginning of Chapter 2, there was not an official Fortnite story live event. Instead, what Fortnite seemed to be doing is favoring these crossover and these promotional events. The Star Wars live event was just a little bit awkward with the live hosting. It almost just felt like I was in a live event to watch an advert rather than experience something really cool. Don't get me wrong, the lightsabers at the end were hype. That was amazing. But I'm a bit worried that Fortnite are going down the direction of favoring money opportunities and crossover opportunities rather than necessarily keeping and building that Fortnite storyline and their own Fortnite brand as well, which could just mean in the future we're just playing a game that is basically a host for a load of advertisements for film, music, and all of this other stuff. I think there's a balance there to be had, and I really don't want the Fortnite storyline driven live events and everything that they're trying to tell us as a story in the game to be lost and just left behind. I think that would be really disappointing. Good news is, however, we are building up towards a Doomsday live event that we know through leaked in-game files for this season, Chapter 2, Season 2, which I cannot wait to see. And I mean, Doomsday, it sounds big, right? So that should be awesome. So hopefully we are moving in the right direction. And the Deadpool crossover event was certainly cool. So as long as they keep both consistent, I think that'll be amazing. Players won't feel like they're necessarily just playing a game that's being used to advertise stuff. I don't want anyone to think that, and I think we're almost crossing that boundary at the moment. Now, this is a big one. I wasn't sure if I should talk about this a little bit earlier, but it's going to lead into a lot of things, so I wanted to put it here, and this is when Fortnite changed. Now, I'm not sure when you thought your favorite season was, or when you had the most fun, or when you thought maybe Fortnite changed the most, but what we've seen within the few years of Fortnite Battle Royale being out is crazy, and it's almost like tens of years of gaming experiences crushed down into a few years because of how fast-paced the community and everything that's happened within the world of Fortnite has happened. Fortnite started off, and the way that you'd be good at Fortnite is basically being good at shooting people. And coming from a background where I did that quite a lot in other games, I was pretty good at Fortnite. I remember back in the day, people would be like, oh, who's better, Ali or Ninja? Like, Ali, you never lose, you win in all your videos. Which to a point was true. I think my best stats in Fortnite were towards the beginning, but I think it's safe to say when building got a lot more skillful and crazy, I definitely fell behind a little bit. But the point I'm trying to get at there is that you've got somebody like Ninja, Tfue, the top competitive players back then who had really high skill level for the time, and me, just a fun content creator, we were compared together. Whereas now, if you look at it, people genuinely don't think I'm any good at Fortnite, and compared to the best, I am nowhere near. But compared to your average player, probably am a lot better, to be fair. But the comparison between bad and good is such a big gap now. And that's changed for several reasons. Firstly, and I think this is something that's overlooked massively, is the fact that Fortnite really push casual and competitive players together as much as they can. We all know how big of a success the Fortnite World Cup was and how you can all interact and play these tournaments online really easily. As a result, casual players get exposed to top level Fortnite play very easily. So as a result, people improve a lot quicker because they're watching people play that are the best of the best. This was all accelerated with the inclusion of playground mode, where for the first time you could go and actually practice building, shooting, 1v1ing your friends without anyone like coming and killing you, because all you could do previously was do that in a normal game. And then obviously creative, adding in editing maps, practice maps, all of these things basically that help you to become so good at Fortnite. And as a result, the skill level went from kind of like, yeah, getting a little bit better to just flying upwards. And the better players were so much better than everyone else. If they were putting in hours of practice and you were just a casual player that came and jumped on with your mates for a few hours on the weekend, you would get destroyed if you ran into those players that were playing a lot. It seemed that Fortnite were focusing more on, you know, pushing that competitive play and players just getting better. And as a result, people started to find Fortnite a lot harder. And then Fortnite almost suddenly panicked a lot. Around the end of Chapter 1, sort of Season 8, 9, 10, we got the introduction of Arena Mode to try and send those really good players away from necessarily just playing too much casual Fortnite, which was quite cool. I think that's a great addition to then the game. And then you get some horrific examples, like the addition of mechs. And to this day, I hate them. I don't think they should have been put in the game even after they were nerfed in the way that they were. And they were literally put in there, and Fortnite even came out and made a whole article about it, to literally feed bad players kills. Fortnite realized that the skill gap that they'd created from overexposing all of these groups of players ultimately created a divide where people had improved so much and gotten so good that casual players could not compete and could not get wins because 1 or 2 players in that lobby they'd never be able to beat. As a result, we have a big split in skill gap. I remember I never struggled too much in chapter 1. I remember a lot of other content creators and people I know really complaining and really struggling and people just saying it wasn't great. I didn't have too much of an issue, but ultimately the addition of mechs to try and get those bad players easy kills was not enough. And with the start of chapter 2, we had severe, fully implemented skill-based matchmaking. But the issue is when this skill gap got really big, like if I wanted to jump on and make a video where I was just launching myself with an impulse nade trying to get cool kills or making a sky base and, you know, falling from it, all of those fun things to do and make videos on became a lot harder. You guys and casual players trying to just have fun and get the odd win became almost impossible. And that was really the big change. And that's when Fortnite, from their perspective, knew that something had to be done. And I think they saw a lot of the casual players fall off as well. Skill-based matchmaking. This is such, I think, like such a split opinion on skill-based matchmaking. I don't know how much I can say. I don't even know if I should say it, but I will. I was fortunate enough to actually have a call with Fortnite and some of the people at Epic about skill-based matchmaking before it was actually implemented into the game. And I come from a background where I had played a lot of Call of Duty, as I said before. And I played the old Call of Duties, which had almost no skill-based matchmaking, up until the more recent ones where skill-based matchmaking was obviously in all of them. Ultimately, for some people, it was a great thing, generally the bad players. But for the better players, it was putting them in skill lobby players where the skill levels were more even, and it makes content creation a lot harder and just basically makes the whole mood of the game a lot more dull, because everything's just a lot more even when it comes to skill-based and people in the game. I actually said to Epic, I don't know if this is a good idea, but as we know, it's in the game, it's still been in the game, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Call of Duty has skill-based matchmaking, Apex Legends has it, Fortnite has it. It's going to stick around, but I think it needs changing, personally. Ultimately, if Fortnite aren't careful, this implementation of skill-based matchmaking will just slowly kill the whole community even more. If you ever wonder why some of your favorite Fortnite players, C-Day, for example, huge content creator, just doesn't make videos anymore, I bet you that answer will be skill-based matchmaking. And ultimately, if you're killing off the top players making content and streaming content and enjoying the game, doesn't matter how much the casual players are sort of playing the odd game, less people are going to be watching it, less people will start playing it, and it'll be less of a cool game and big game that it has been in the past. Now, personally, rather than skill-based matchmaking being this even line where you draw a line across to your skill and you're put up against people of the same skill to the point where all of the lobbies are just equal, I think that the skill-based matchmaking should be implemented more severely at the lower ranks, and the better you get, skill-based matchmaking becomes a little bit weaker and the skill gap becomes a little bit more random. So if you are right at the top, you could still be matched with like a mid-level player. And if you are a mid-level player, you could still have a lobby filled with slightly worse people and a little better people. And making those top games where streamers are now literally going for like 3 or 4 kill wins because the entire lobby is basically a competitive lobby, to making it a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more loose. You'll see more streamers making fun clips. You'll see more people having fun on the game. And probably if you're watching this video, you're probably more of a person that's put a lot of time into it anyway. I don't really know exactly how skill-based matchmaking is calculated, but I know for sure that if your account is quite an old account, you get screwed over. I know Rich Item, who I used to play a lot of Fortnite with, who now makes Apex content. If we jump on together and play on our OG accounts, bearing in mind he hasn't played Fortnite properly, like probably a year, the lobbies are horrific. And I think the way that skill-based matchmaking is implemented and whatever algorithm they're using, it all needs to be toned back a little bit, and they need to severely think about the long-term impacts of what it will do to people that are playing the game a lot and making content on it personally. But I know casual players like it, so let's keep it in for those lower ranked games. That's my personal opinion. Otherwise, you're just turning it into one giant competitive game even in casuals, which leads me into the next topic. Competitive Fortnite. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know everything about competitive Fortnite. I am definitely not a competitive player. I don't want to sit down and play Fortnite for 10 hours a day. I'm not going to lie to you. I've got 2 dogs, 2 cats, a fiance, family, lots of stuff going on outside of my life, which I badly balance with playing games and making content, but I'm not going to sit there and grind the game for hours and hours and hours to be the best at it. You're just not going to get that from me. I'm just going to be as good as I can without playing for 20 hours a day. But that's absolutely fine. I still think, and I know that the competitive community is a really big community. It's got a very vocal voice and is a big part of the world of Fortnite. From what I can say, looking outwards into the community without pretending that I know what's going on there, is that they aren't that happy. There's a few reasons. One of them I know is that the loot pool money in terms of prizes isn't quite as good. I think personally they were, I don't want to say spoiled, but they were kind of spoiled with how much money has been given in the past and the prize pools for World Cup and everything. I mean, the money's just crazy and you can literally sit at home and do this, which in the past has not been a thing. You got to go to events to do that kind of stuff. But we are moving into the future and online play should be the standard for competitive gaming, which is fine. Fortnite set themselves up at this really high standard with a lot of money involved, making people's lives to literally be good at the game, which is crazy. But now the money's not as much. There isn't as many tournaments going on. And coming back to the whole thing of communication, they don't know what's coming next. They feel in the dark. Like, should I be sitting here playing Fortnite for 15 hours a day? Or is there no money to be given out in tournaments this year? Nobody really knows. Now, I've got an opinion on this. I don't know if people are going to agree on it, but we've talked about how Fortnite merged and really pushed competitive play as being watchable by casual players so anybody could sit and watch it. And I think it's a smart move because if you want somebody to watch a competitive game, they need to have some sort of basis and understanding of it. And if you make competitive too different to casual, you can't do that. However, I think we're at a point now where everyone understands Fortnite. And I think it'd be fair enough to give competitive players their own loot pool of weapons that basically makes the game a little bit more skill-based and less RNG. Now, don't get me wrong, we're playing a battle royale where the game is literally picking up great rarity weapons and trying to kill people, and there is some luck involved in that. But when you got things like mythical weapons that are literally ridiculously OP compared to any other normal weapon in the game, even if you find the legendary variant, that is a bit unfair. And I think it would be fair enough to add more fun, stupid items into casual play so that we can mess around and have fun with our friends again and not really care if we win or lose if you don't want to. And then all of the people that are playing for big money and take it really seriously can have a loot pool with maybe no heavy snipers, no mythical weapons, and they feel like it's more skill-based than luck-based. I think that's a fair enough assumption, and better communication, as I've said. I don't have too much more to say on competitive Fortnite because I don't know too much about it, but hopefully that's something you can agree on as well. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, such a controversial topic, I could do a whole video on this, I'm sure, is obviously keyboard and mouse versus controller. Don't want to forget about you touch input players as well. But if you jump back a few years and said, do you think a controller player could win multi-million-dollar tournaments or compete at multi-million-dollar tournaments against keyboard and mouse players in a competitive environment? Most people have said no. Like, the idea of aiming and using this thing, like, look at this little stick here, versus like literally moving your mouse around, there is a big difference, and people know that. As a result, controller players have aim assist, and the big controversial topic at the moment is that people saying aim assist is too strong. And you know what's funny is that if you jump back to the beginning of Fortnite, aim assist was so much stronger. It was so much more powerful. I know it was because I remember you almost didn't need to aim at some points. L2 spam, where you just spammed the aim down sight button, would literally just keep your target on them without aiming. It made controller players very lazy. I know I got very lazy and it was OP, but that has been reined back and that has been removed. It doesn't help that online you get a lot of these like little clips of people beaming and getting multiple headshots on a controller, which make controller players look a lot more unfair and OP compared to keyboard and mouse. I think maybe there's some fine tuning to go on there to allow it to be a little bit more even now that controller players really have caught up to keyboard and mouse players. I know I feel aim assist sometimes a lot in close range gunfights, and it just helps you stay a little bit more on target. But again, and it's the reason I opened up this video, you've got to remember there's loads of people playing this game. If you are playing a top tier level against somebody that is so good on controller and think that their aim assist is a little bit too strong and you want to lower it, you are lowering aim assist for every single controller casual player in the world. Suddenly, they may not be able to aim very well. They may not be able to play very well. They may end up thinking that they've gotten a lot worse, stop playing, and Fortnite's lost a load of its player base because of that one tiny tweak. And I think that's a big thing that Fortnite are thinking about, and potentially one of the reasons why we haven't seen changes in those areas. I'm biased, I guess. I play on controller. Maybe slight tweaks to make it a little bit worse, but I just think I'm just still so impressed that controller players are keeping up with keyboard and mouse players in a competitive game that is so technical like Fortnite. I think it's crazy. And maybe separate aim assist in competitive playlists compared to casual playlists could be a really good answer that could help even that divide a little bit and keep people more happy. Let me know what you guys think. A lot of stuff to talk about there. Ultimately, Fortnite has been a crazy game that's done so much for me and so much for many people around the world. I just really want it to be that fun game that I think it can actually return to with some slight tweaks, some updates, and more information from Epic Games itself. So I hope you found this video interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down below. If you haven't clicked like button and share this video already, please do so if you would like to get some more attention. And I'll let you know if Epic Games do say anything to me directly. Thank you so much for watching. I love Fortnite. I love you guys. Make sure you subscribe. Check out another video on screen here if you want. And thank you, especially to you guys, for watching to the end. Goodbye.